to Inner Peace Better Health, where transformations begins with truth. I am your host Shreya. Today's guest, Angie Hawkins, is an inner glow coach and the author of Running in Sleepers, a memoir of healing, courage, and unapologetic self-worth. She has leapt from helicopters, moved across oceans, and now helps women leap into their own power. If you have ever felt invisible while doing everything right, this one is for you. So, welcome, Angie. I'm honored to have you on my show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
From skydiving to soul dives, you have lived boldly. What was the inner jump that truly changed your life?
Yeah, so the truth is, I have not always been this courageous. When I was a little girl, I grew up in a very critical environment. And so that conditioned me to hide myself. I didn't like putting myself out there, I didn't like allowing myself to be seen. But through my healing journey, I have learned that the best things happen outside of your comfort zone. So I believe it or not, I'm actually not adventurous, but I do things like jumping out of helicopters and skydiving and bungee jumping to intentionally push myself out of my comfort zone. So that way, when things happen in life as they do that force me out of my comfort zone, that I have the emotional resilience to deal with it.
Yes, yes, and that's wonderful. And I think, how did your nervous system handle that vulnerability compared to that adventure?
That's a great question because it feels the same because vulnerability is scary, right? Because we like to have this persona of, at least this is how I lived a lot of my life. Like I like to have the persona of having it all together and everything was fine, and I didn't want people to see my flaws because I thought that that would mean that I would be criticized or people wouldn't like me. But what I have learned, even though it's still scary, vulnerability works the opposite way that we think it does, because when you expose the basically real things that happen to you that aren't perfect, it's actually very relatable. And that's how you connect with other people as human beings. So even though it can be terrifying, that's how you connect with other people.
Yes, yes, and I think uh, because emotional risk often feels scarier than physical risk, doesn't it?
Yeah, I honestly think a lot of people would rather go bungee jumping than be vulnerable because that seems, even though they're both terrifying, that seems less scary. But I mean, you can't connect to people when you're bungee jumping. I mean, you can, but I think we connect better as human beings when we're actually speaking in terms of human experiences.
I fully agree with you. And how did people pleasing erode your sense of self, and what helped you finally break that cycle?
That's a great question. I lived a lot of my life as a people pleaser. Other people's opinion of me meant way more than my opinion of myself. And when you're constantly living for that external approval, you start to feel extremely burned out because you're just giving, 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 and not getting a lot in return. And that also causes you to feel resentful because, in a way, you're expecting that reciprocity, but you're giving to people who, again, because you're more concerned about them than you. So you're giving to people who aren't necessarily even respecting you, and you're not going through that evaluation process of, is this someone I really even want in my life? And it honestly really erodes at your self-worth, and that's where I really hit my rock bottom was, and because people pleasing was just one symptom of just overall self-abandonment and low self-worth. And because when you love yourself, you're loyal to yourself, and anything external is just a cherry on top. And if it's not serving you, then you have the choice to either accept it in your life or walk away from it or set a boundary so that it only affects you in healthy ways.
Yeah. And I think that choice to stop performing and start belonging to yourself is so, so
Yes.
powerful. And was there a moment where you choose self-worth over approval and didn't look back?
Yes. So actually, just recently, I had an experience. I was working in corporate America. And to be honest, the job had not been aligned with my values for quite some time. But it took this toxic situation that I was in for about 6 months. I wasn't being treated appropriately, I wasn't being treated up to my standards. And I just decided, like, I don't deserve this and I'm not willing to tolerate it. So I actually quit corporate America completely and started my own business. So that's what I do now, the Inner Glow coaching. And I basically help women go through the same transformation that I did, the low self-worth, people pleasing, giving yourself away to all these external factors to actually standing in your power, having the self-respect, having the self-trust, and having the confidence to, set these boundaries and have this level of respect for yourself.
Yes, yes. And I think that decision is so, so powerful because I think many women and also other people, they are stuck in that people-pleasing loop nowadays. But to have someone who has break through that and to listen to that is so, so, so great. I think your story will really inspire other women. And also you
Oh, I was just gonna say, and that's why I tell my story because I present myself a certain way now because I am confident and I have gone through my transformation. But if you could have seen me 5 years ago, that was not the case at all. So I tell my story because if I can do it, anyone can do it. So I hope to inspire others.
yes, 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 absolutely. And also you coach women through the fog of self-criticism. Uh, what is the first inner shift that creates real peace?
I think there's several things. It really depends on what because usually there's a core inner belief that you have, and everyone is different. So, for example, any situation in my life, when I really peel back the layers on what is causing me to behave in that way, my limiting belief was always that I felt like I didn't deserve to be loved and that I wasn't important. So once you identify what that thing is for you, because usually with everyone, it just comes down to one thing. So once you identify what that is, then you can work on switching that belief. Because, for example, in my case, I do deserve to be loved. The problem was growing up, I was conditioned to believe that. And so because I believed that, I attracted people and experiences that reflected that back to me. So once you can shift that belief, that's when you start showing up differently and you start attracting the things that reflect that positive belief about yourself. Because that is the truth, the positive belief.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's so wonderful, so wonderful. And how do you guide someone to hear their intuition when their inner critic is the loudest voice?
Yes. So when I first started developing my intuition, because I spent a lot of my life ignoring my intuition, so I had to make the decision that well, first of all, I had to realize that I had that power inside of me because we all do. And then I had to decide that I wanted to develop it and start listening to it. But to your point, I also had the critical inner voice. So for me, the way I can tell the difference is like, say, I want to make a decision or have to make a decision about something, and I ask my intuition, should I do this? My intuition would never say something like, "No, that's a stupid idea. You're an idiot. Why would you think that?" That is your critical inner voice. Your intuition is because your intuition is you. So your intuition is very loving and very compassionate because that's who we all are at our core. So your intuition If it's a bad decision, your intuition might say something like, "No, not right now," or "No, there's something better for you," or maybe even just simply no. Your intuition would never criticize you or say anything negative. So that's how I can tell, because if it's critical and unloving, it's either my ego, logic, or my critical inner voice. But if it's loving and compassionate, even if it's something I don't want to hear, then that's my intuition.
Yeah. And I think it's like a tuning a radio. Like we all have the
Yes.
signals, but we have been trained to ignore it. But need to listen to it because that is really important. And also, what was your healing process after emotional rock bottom, and how did writing your memoir fit into that?
Yeah. So my emotional bottom was exactly that, because fortunately I intentionally overdosed on my anxiety medication in an attempt to take my own life. And I survived, which is extremely powerful because a lot of people do not get second chances in life. And I was forced to acknowledge that this was actually a gift and that maybe my life has a larger purpose. And I had been thinking about writing a book, and I wasn't taking it seriously at all. But I had this idea for a book because I get really disgruntled with life sometimes, because you go on social media and everyone has these edited and filtered posts and you're just not seeing real life. And even if you're talking to someone in real life, a lot of times we all put on our happy face and pretend everything is okay. And it's like we all go through these really hard things in life and we're just not talking about it. So I had this idea for a memoir where I just write about my life, just real, raw, and vulnerable. And my hope for the book was to connect through vulnerability. So again, I wasn't really taking it seriously until I was gifted the second chance at life. And I was like, maybe this is my purpose. So I wrote the book, and I don't think things are coincidences, because again, I was working in corporate America and like this toxic situation came up, and my intuition was banging me over the head. You need to leave. You need to leave. I did ignore it for a while, but then I finally left. And now I feel like I'm on my aligned path, because now I'm coaching women to help them on their self love journey. And it just feels way more aligned in my life. So the book is just, it was like the catalyst for my rebirth. That's how I would describe it.
That's so wonderful. And also, can you just share more about your book, Running in Slippers, that what this book is about and all?
Yeah. So just the title in itself, I live in Hawaii, and in Hawaii, flip flops are called slippers. So it actually means running in flip flops. The story behind how I came up with that title is in the introduction of the book, so I won't give that away. But in general, running in slippers is a metaphor for life, because if you run in flip flops, it can be fun and playful and adventurous, but it can also be scary, painful, and you can get hurt. So, running in slippers is just an overall metaphor for life. And I feel like I cover all of those experiences in my book.
That's so beautiful. And I think our listeners need to read this, and this is a wonderful book to read, I think, because it sounds so interesting. And what surprised you the most about yourself as you wrote Running in Slippers?
Just my courage, I think I would say. And I shouldn't say just my courage, just my courage, because again, at the point that I wrote the book, I had been bungee jumping, I had been skydiving, I had done all these scary things. But being that vulnerable and knowing that not only people that I know would read it, but complete strangers all over the world would be reading it was so terrifying. But the funny thing is, the people who have reached out to me who have read the book, everyone loves it. They say how relatable it is. And not only that, I've had people reach out to me and say, like, this specific thing that you experienced in the book I've experienced it too. And again, like it just blew me away because we're not talking about these things. So let's start talking about it.
Yes, and I think writing heals, especially when we tell the truth and tell our stories, and your story invites others to do the same. And that's really,
Yes.
really commendable. And also, let's talk about confidence. So, not the kind of that is very loud, but the kind of that is steady. How do we cultivate that kind of inner glow and confidence?
Yeah, I really struggle with the word confidence because I think a lot of time it's associated with what you were alluding to, like that arrogance, or it almost has a negative connotation sometimes. But how I view confidence is, and the reason I call my coaching inner glow coaching is because we're all born with this light inside of us. Because, like, you see little kids running around and like they're happy, they don't care what anyone thinks, they're screaming, they'll do anything and they just don't care. And then we go through life and society or our family and friends, they start dimming our light because they say, oh, you shouldn't be this way. You shouldn't be that way. And like that light is who we are. So I think when you rekindle that light and just love yourself and trust yourself and don't care if anyone's criticizing you, like that is true confidence. It's just like the way you move and it's coming totally internally. Whereas like the confidence that has a negative connotation, that's based on how you want other people to perceive you, if that makes sense.
Yes, yes, yes. And I think that's the beauty of self love, that it's a quiet revolution that radiates outward. And what is one small daily ritual that has helped you to return to yourself again and again?
So my number one rule, I this is for me and I also teach this to my coaching clients, is I do at least one thing every day that brings me joy, because just like we can get locked into self-abandoning habits, we can also develop habits that are loving toward ourselves. And I think doing something that makes you happy is probably one of the most loving things that you can do to yourself. And it doesn't even have to be something complicated. My one thing is usually surfing, but I don't always have the time commitment to surf. And I know if people are listening and they want ideas, they may not even live in a location where surfing is possible, but it doesn't even have to be that intense. Like, for example, I love to dance, and most songs these days are like barely 3 minutes long. So even if and you should do it more than 3 minutes, but even if you have a really busy day and you only have 3 minutes, like just throw on a song and dance or just do something for you.
Yeah, that's so accessible and a beautiful practice, I would say, that I think everyone can do and everyone can access to. And thank you for sharing this. It's a wonderful conversation. And if
Yeah.
I had to give a message or say something to my listeners, what would you say?
I would say that you deserve to be happy, because I think we live in worlds where we're taught we have to like work all day and do this and do that. And we're not really told to give back to ourselves or do things that make us happy. But the truth, again, like we're all born with this inner light, which is the source of our inner joy and happiness. So feed that and feel that, because you deserve to feel happy and feel that internal joy.
Yes, yes, that's a wonderful message to give to anyone. And I think this conversation is so, so, so beautiful. And your energy just sparks from the camera. Or I think whoever listening to the podcast, they also can feel your energy, because it's really, really amazing. And if my listeners want to connect with you, then what's the best way?
The best way, there's two ways. So I'm on Instagram and my handle is Angie Hawkins 808. or they can visit my website, which is runninginslippers.com. And that has information about my coaching program and my book. And my coaching program is called Shine from the Inside, which is the inner glow coaching. And I do offer a free coaching call for anyone who's interested. So just let me know that you heard about me on this podcast and you're free to set up a call.
Yes. And I will make sure to attach all the details and links below so that the listeners can find them easily and get in touch with you and can have a talk with you because you are a wonderful person. And thank you for sharing all your knowledge, all your experience, and the plethora of everything that you have shared there. It's just wonderful. And thank you for being the voice of so many women who need to hear this, the one that says you matter just as you are. And to everyone who is listening, your glow isn't gone. It's just waiting for your permission to rise. This is Inner Peace Better Health, and it begins the moment you say yes to yourself. So, next time, stay grounded, stay peace, stay motivated, and listen to Inner Peace Better Health. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for having me. And on that note, the reason I call my coaching program Shine from the Inside is because not only does it benefit you because you feel good and have that internal shine, other people can feel it as well. And you basically just validated that. So thank you.